What's up? It is Thirsty Thursday, which means one thing. We got Thursday night football as we begin the final third of the NFL season. Lauren Jabara here with Jared Smith. This is Pickswise. Let's bet it. Presented by Superbook Sports. Gerard, how are you today?
I'm good, Mr. Barr. I'm getting ready for
Yeah.
Croatia, Belgium, and Morocco, Canada. Just kicked off here on the
Love
World
that.
Cup stage. So we've got a couple bets in the hopper for this morning. And I don't know. It's going to be a game time decision. I'm waiting for a couple of messages back from some of our sharper friends about how to handle this Thursday night game tonight, because as we're about to discuss, there has been some steam coming in on the Pats, and I'm not sure how to dissect it. So a little perplexing, considering I think Buffalo is the right side. Our pals think Buffalo is the right side, but
Yeah.
steam's going against the Bills, so we'll see.
Let's get into it right now. The Buffalo Bills heading on into New England to take on the Patriots in Foxborough. That spread right now is set at 3.5. The total is set at 43.5. It is going to be a little windy, a little chilly. Is there going to be rain on the Doppler radar, Jared, or no rain?
I don't know. You're the Doppler queen. You tell me.
I know. I should have honestly checked the Doppler before this.
I thought you had like a computer in your brain that tells you where everywhere there's going to be rain happening in the country and wind.
Seriously, it's like my spidey senses tingling or something. But you look at this, because usually teams that play Thursday night football are on a short week. Both teams played last week on Thursday for Thanksgiving. The Patriots narrowly lost. The Bills narrowly won against the Lions. And the Patriots are the only team that lost in the East in their division last week, which is pretty crazy. How do you see this game playing out? Because Josh Allen able to get back on track. He got it done with 24 seconds left against the Detroit Lions. But the Patriots defense is still underrated and kind of not talked about as much as we probably should be talking about them.
Yeah, there's a lot to this game. I just looked at the weather forecast. It actually looks pretty good in Foxborough tonight.
Oh,
temperatures
just a little chilly.
Temperatures in the low 30s, not exactly like warm, but not like, freezing, like just kind of right at the freezing mark, and no precip. And it basically, based on what I'm looking at, I'm only seeing 10 to 5 to 10 mile an hour winds. So, maybe touching 15. So not like terrible football conditions. Some might say football weather. All right. It's funny because Clev TA wrote this game up for our site, and he's on the Bills -4.5. And he wrote this up obviously earlier in the week because, like what we've seen, this line has consistently shrunk throughout the last 24 to 48 hours. In fact, I even saw it nestle up against 3 overnight, and then it was bought back very quickly to 3.5. So this thing drifted all the way. I mean, it reopened 5.5 over the weekend. And since then, it has been a steady stream down. 5.5, 5, 4.5, 4, 3.5, 3. And then you saw the U-turn back to 3.5. And now, again, it's kind of hovering at a juiced plus 3.5 for the Patriots. You're going to have to pay 20, 25 cents if you want that plus 3.5. Now, I think when you talk about the defense for the Patriots, the first line of my notes today is, are the Pats the perfect elixir for Josh Allen? And if you take away that crazy win game last year, the Patriots defense have really struggled against Josh Allen. The Bills have won by 30, 12, and 29 in those other 3 games, including that wild card game last year, which was just straight domination. I mean, it was about as big of a blowout as you could see in the postseason. Now, the Bills are a little banged up on the offensive line. Deion Dawkins, center Mitch Morse. Dawkins, their left tackle, Mitch Morse, the center. So that's something to keep an eye on. Patriots also banged up on the offensive line as well. Isaiah Wynn, their left tackle, didn't practice this week. David Andrews, the center, and their right tackle, Yandy Kajus, they're also in the questionable category. And this Pat's offensive line already isn't playing well. Last in run block win rate, which is kind of surprising because we think of this Patriots offense as a running team, but they're not winning at the line of scrimmage. So they're getting it done kind of with smoke and mirrors. And I think it's fair to say that we should be fading Mac Jones off of his best game of the year, which was last week. I mean, he was fantastic last week against the Vikings. So I do think there's a lot of, things to lean on Buffalo here, and there's a lot of positives for the Bills. Tre'Davious White, played for the first time in over a year last week, only played 15 snaps off the ACL. He's a week healthier, probably going to see more from him. Greg Russo's back, the defensive end. That's huge because Von Miller is still out, and the Bills are a top 10 team against the run with Ed Oliver in the middle. So Bills defense, good against the run, getting back a piece on the defensive line. You got the cornerback, White, maybe a week healthier, and the Pats a little thin at running back because Damian Harris is out. So this game's going to fall on the shoulders of Mac Jones. Can Mac Jones do what he did last week, which is throw the ball all over the field? I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. So the fact that this line has gotten all the way down to 3.5 now, I think I kind of like the Bills a little more than I did, even though the market's disagreeing with me. But there's something about this line that's a little stinky because I would think the Bills at 4.5 was a good bet. Now it's 3.5. So I don't know what the sharps are seeing, but they clearly favor the Patriots, at least at these elevated prices.
Yeah, I'm running the Bills hard this week. I mean, the fact that you compare both of their defenses, very similar in the caliber of defense that each team has. Who has the better offense? It's the Buffalo Bills. And who hasn't necessarily been playing up to 100% expectations over the last few weeks. Yeah, they got the win last week against the Lions. But still, the Bills cannot be happy with how their offense has been playing recently and the way that Josh Allen, some of the decision-making that he's had. He wants to get back to week 1 through 4, Josh Allen, that absolutely dominated everybody in the National Football League. So I'm riding the Bills hard, and I love them at -3.5. That may or may not be my best bet of the day. But this game's going to be fun. I'm excited to watch it. Let's get into our NFL Would You Rather, Jared, because we love our Would You Rathers. Let's talk about the Coach of the Year for a second. Would you rather our guy Robert Saleh +500, 5-1 odds, or Mike McDaniels also at +500, 5-1 odds at this point?
It's tough. So, I have a confession to make. The Jets are a real football team, guys. They're a real football team.
That's not a confession. We all know this.
I mean, it took me a while to get there.
Mike White. Yeah.
It took me a while to get there. So when I go through my process every week, I obviously try to remove my fandom from the equation. And when it comes to the Jets, I look at the Jets every week. I do some spots for some New York stations, and obviously we do a lot of stuff here for Pickswise. I always add an extra layer of scrutiny to my Jets handicaps just to make sure that I'm not being biased towards or against my favorite team, which has been my favorite team since I was born.
Yes.
When I went through that process this week, and I was looking at the numbers, I was looking at the odds, I was looking at all the nerd stats that I love to digest on a daily basis that makes me bloated most days. Yeah. I was like, holy shit, the Jets are really good.
They're good. Their defense is second to none.
So I'll give you the handicap on the Jets defense really fast, and then you could tell me how you feel about Mike McDaniel or Robert Saleh. Because I'll be honest, that's a coin flip pick right there. The Jets are probably right now a top 5 defense in the league, maybe a top 3, top to bottom. Up front, they are generating a top 5 pressure rate, and they are not blitzing. Bottom 5 blitz rate. And what do we talk about with teams that can get to the quarterback without having to commit an extra guy to the box? That is the chef's kiss of defenses right there. And there's not a lot of defenses in the league that can do it. The irony is the other team that is kind of popping in that category, the Niners. Where did Robert Saleh come from? The Niners. So you take this style of defense and you install it with the Jets. Well, it's taken a little while for it to catch on. Why? Well, because unlike the Niners, the Jets didn't have 2 studs in the secondary like they do now. Obviously, we know about Sauce Gardner. He's grading out as the top corner in the league.
Saucy.
He is saucy. But here's the guy that you're not talking about that you should. DJ Reed on the other side is grading out 12th out of 121 corners with his PFF grade. And DJ Reed is a guy that came from Seattle, before that San Francisco, played in the NFC West, understands the style that Robert Saleh wants to play. So now you have both corners bookended. And you have a defensive line that can get pressure without committing an extra guy to the box. That is a recipe for domination on the defensive side. It frees your linebackers up to do whatever they want, and it allows the safeties to roam in and out of the box depending on down and distance and what scheme you're in. It's remarkable. The Jets are a top 5 defense. There's no fluke about it. Not same old Jets. They're a top 5 defense. Now, Mike White, there's questions. Can he do that again? Can he sustain that down the stretch? Can he play turnover-free football? If he can, the Jets are going to be in the playoffs. And when you're in the playoffs and you've got a defense like they've got, all bets are off. They can win any game on their schedule because they can shut down any of those Mahomes, Allen type quarterbacks in a one-game roll of the dice. So I think I would lean Saleh, but obviously Mike McDaniel's done a fantastic job too, and the Dolphins are a contender with Tua. So very tough to pick this, but guys, the Jets are for real. There's no more fluky about it.
I know, they are. I mean, you look at both of these coaches, and they've both done a good job with different pieces, right? Like, I feel like Robert Saleh has done a really good job navigating a guy like Zach Wilson this season, maybe not having his best year. I mean, then they lose Breece Hall, and then, like, you're losing all of these pieces, but he's still really pushed on the defensive side. For Mike McDaniel, it's easy to coach a team when you have Tua Tagovailoa and then guys that he's thrown to in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, right? Like, it's kind of easy to coach an offense when you have that many pieces and that many parts. I don't know. I think it's a toss-up between these two guys. I think I know who you're going to say for the next one, the offensive rookie of the year. Kenneth Walker III right now, obviously running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Right now, 135 attempts, 613 yards, 9 touchdowns, averaging 4.5 yards per carry. Then you look at Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, obviously, for the New York Jets. 49 receptions, 628 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's averaging 12.8 yards per catch. Who at this point of the season would you pick for offensive rookie of the year?
I mean, the value says Wilson,
I know you
right?
want to lean. I know where you want to lean.
Well, here's the problem with this market is there's not a lot of runway left for you. Like, obviously, Walker's the guy that the odds makers are like, because at this stage of the season, they're not painting this award at minus 150 odds on for Kenneth Walker unless he's the favorite. So you have to ask yourself, is Wilson going to have that? Like, I'll be honest, though. I've seen some cracks in the armor with Seattle's defense, especially over the last few weeks. And that takes the running game away from their offense a bit. If game script dictates that they're going to be behind in a lot of games because their defense is starting to basically what's happened with Seattle is their defense is playing like we expected them to now. They had this little stretch midseason where their defense was playing well above the expectation. And now it's kind of come back to earth a little bit. And I think that removes some of the value from Garrett Wilson, from Kenneth Walker. Just combine them together. I'll pick them both. Garrett Walker. I'll have them both.
That'd be the best back wide receiver in the nation at that point.
I mean, just give him the Heisman now, right? That would be so. Seriously. It takes a little bit of the value away from Kenneth Walker because the Seahawks aren't in a position where they're going to run the football a lot down the stretch of the season if they're going to be behind in a lot of these games. So I think I would take a flyer on Wilson here at 6-1, just because it's clear that with Mike White, this offense has a little bit of a different punch to it. Right? Like there's a little bit of a different vibe with the Jets offense now with Mike White. And I'm not going to say Mike White is a immensely more talented quarterback than Zach Wilson. That's not the case. But in this particular offense, it does seem like the troops are rallied around Mike White, where Garrett Wilson was just kind of holding it together with, Elmer's glue and, chewing.
Something like that.
So I kind of favor Wilson just because of the price and because maybe some of the game scripts will be against Kenneth Walker getting a lot of run down the stretch of the season.
Yeah, last but not least, before we bring in our friend Roddy Jones, most rushing yards, Josh Jacobs at plus 150 or Nick Chubb at 275. Right now, Josh Jacobs, Jingleheimer Smith, every time I think of his name, that's what I think of. 216 attempts, 1,159 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5.4 yards on average per carry. Now you look at Nick Chubb, 200 attempts, 1039 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5.2 on average. I tend to lean Josh Jacobs here because the Raiders are really leaning on their run game right now, especially. They just are trying to get wins, and that's what's worked for them the last couple of weeks. I mean, Josh Jacobs had, 300 yards last week. It was wild, insane. Who do you think at the end of the season, 6 weeks from now, has the most rushing yards?
It's a good question. There's a motivational factor to this that I think we need to make sure we handicap, and that's my friend Jerry Maguire. Best movie ever. Show me the money. Josh Jacobs has been screaming it all year because he's in a contract season, and it does appear that he's running for his money. That's kind of the vibe that I get in this market. Chubb's been great. The Browns are about to get Deshaun Watson back. You would think that's going to open up some things for him. But if you're going to ask me a guy running for his money or a guy just running, I'll take the guy running for his money every day.
I'm taking the guy running for his money too. I mean, at that point, and he's truly so much fun to watch. Like, I love watching him play too. The Raiders game this weekend is gonna be interesting. We're breaking all of these games down too, guys, on Pickswise Playbook. It is live today at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we're gonna do that show. So make sure to tune in for that as well. All right, let's bring in our friend Roddy Jones. You can find him on Twitter at Roddy Jones20. He's the analyst for ESPN and ACC Network and SiriusXM. He's also a former Georgia Tech running back. Speaking of the running game, Roddy, how are you today? Can you hear us?
Fantastic, guys.
Yay!
Sorry I'm doing this from the car, but I'm doing great. How are y'all?
We're good. We're so good. We're excited for some of these conference championships. Yeah, we have you. We're excited for some of these conference championship games this weekend. Let's start it out first. LSU taking on Georgia. That spread right now is set at 18.5. I mean, massive spread. Is there any chance that LSU can come in with a backdoor cover, or do you feel like with the way that Georgia's been playing and the pieces that they have, they can cover the almost 20-point spread?
Sure, there's a chance that LSU could backdoor cover it, but when you look at what Georgia's done this year, when they've been interested in games, they've absolutely demolished teams. I think Georgia has sort of the issue of they're so good and they know it that when they turn on the film, they know they're better than people, and so they haven't always played up to their potential. But in an SEC championship game scenario, I just like this Georgia team too much. A lot of this LSU offense has been based on Jaden Daniels' ability to run. And this Georgia defense can absolutely fly. They've got one of the best players in the country in Jalen Carter up front. That group of linebackers is a little young and unheralded right now. So I like Georgia in the game. I like them big. Can LSU backdoor cover? Maybe. I wouldn't put a lot of confidence in it because that Georgia defense is so good, and that performance against Texas A&M left a lot to be desired last week for LSU.
Yeah, I don't know about LSU right now. I think so. It's kind of funny, and I'll get a follow-up here real quick before we get into the ACC. But the thing about Georgia that interested me this week, Roddy, and you could speak to this, being on the former player side.
Yeah.
Despite winning the national championship, despite all the accolades that this Georgia team has racked up over the last few seasons under Kirby Smart, they haven't won the SEC championship yet. And their players have mentioned that this week as kind of a rallying cry for getting some motivation this week. And also, Kirby was kind of pissed off over the last 2 weeks against Kentucky and Georgia Tech. Didn't play that well, didn't cover either spread. So even though LSU, this number is massive, and, do you really want to lay 3 scores in a game where Georgia doesn't need margin? They don't need to win this game by 3 scores. They don't even need to really win this game to get into the college football playoff, I don't think. But the motivation there with this team not having won the SEC championship during this little stretch that they're on, does that change your handicap or your feeling about this game at all?
Not really, because the number is so big, and you get in the fourth quarter, and if Georgia puts backups in, who knows what could happen. But I do think that motivation is an important factor to think about early in the game, and to think about if you're deciding to play this one. It's the old Steve Spurrier adage, when Alabama Alabama won the national championship without winning the SEC. He said, well, the SEC is harder to win than the Natty. And I think that team last year may actually not prove that, obviously, but search credence to that, at least a little quip. So get his motivation for Georgia. Again,
Oh no. Okay, can you hear us now? Sorry, it was cutting out a little bit. Can you hear us? Yay.
yeah,
Let's get into
I've got
Clemson.
you guys. I've got you guys.
Perfect.
You got me.
Let's get into Clemson for a second, too, in the ACC championship. Clemson Tigers taking on North Carolina Tar Heels. Is there any chance in the world that Clemson, makes the college football playoff, or is it pretty set in stone where if USC wins, they're in? If they lose, maybe Ohio State sneaks in there. If TCU loses, maybe Ohio State sneaks in there. Like, how does that look if Clemson wins, and maybe wins by really big, that they could get into the college football playoff?
No, there's no shot for Clemson at this point. There's too many teams they would have to jump over. Georgia and Michigan are already in. They're basically guaranteed.
Yeah.
If TCU loses in a situation where it's TCU versus Clemson, TCU gets in because of the one loss, even if they lose in the conference championship game. Clemson doesn't really have a prayer, but so for them, it's about bowl positioning. It's about winning an ACC championship. But yeah, their college off hopes. They fumbled away when Antonio Williams fumbled on that punt return.
Yeah, I know. Roddy, we so appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll be talking to you throughout the stretch run during the bowl games, et cetera, et cetera. Best of luck this weekend to all of your teams. That is Roddy Jones, analyst for ESPN and ACC Network and SiriusXM, former Georgia Tech running back. You can find him on Twitter at RoddyJones20. Jared, before we get into our best bets of the day, let's talk about Superbook Sports for a second, because Let's Bet It is presented by our friends at Superbook Sports. Pile up the wins and pile up the money with our friends at Superbook. Right now, the best betting app from Las Vegas is giving you free money every week you make a bet. Just place a $50 bet each week with Superbook, and they'll give you a $5 bonus up to $50 for betting each week afterwards. If you're in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Nevada, New Jersey, or Tennessee, you're the only 10 I see. Download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com to get your streak started today. From superbook.com to pickswise.com, Gerard, who you got for your 3-star play of the day?
Yeah, Henry Hardwick, our pal from across the pond, checking in with a little World Cup action, which I will be echoing in just a moment. We got some college hoops on the site too, and some NHL. Chad Harstock, Mark Lammy, Brian Prouty, and of course our pal Clev TA, Lock Mamba. We got a lot on the site today. There's a bevy for you to digest. So head to pickswise.com, check it out.
Plethora of picks today. Make sure to check it out, pickswise.com. All right, 3-star play, your 3-star play / best bet. Who you got today? Because I know you're taking it back to the pitch.
I am. We got a push on the Saudis yesterday. It wasn't exactly a fresh push. It was a fortunate one. We got it at the death. But I'll be honest, Mexico scored on a free kick that was very fortunate. I thought yesterday's scoreline probably should have been more like 3-0 Mexico. They outplayed the Saudis, and they really pushed for that qualification spot. But they came up painfully short, and we got a goal late because they overcommitted, and the Saudis had a basically a wide open net, lane to the net, and they took advantage. So we got the push yesterday. No harm, no foul. We'll go back to the pitch today, and this is a whopper. This is a whopper of a spread in soccer, but I think it's warranted based off of the situation. So we are laying 2.5 goals with Germany today against Costa Rica. Now, the situation here is actually very unique for Germany because if the group ended right now, they would be the last place team in a group with Spain, very good, Japan, and Costa Rica. So we know that Germany lost to Japan earlier in this tournament. We know that Germany got a much-needed point against Spain in a draw in their last match. And now they face Costa Rica in a spot where they really can't win the group unless somehow Spain loses and Germany wins by like 100 goals. But I think Germany's going to push for that. And I think that's why I'm willing to lay 2.5 in a soccer match where most games only have 2 or 3 goals in it, because I just think Germany is vastly better than Costa Rica. We've already seen Spain beat Costa Rica 7-0 earlier in this tournament, and I think Germany has similar firepower in order to get that done. We only need 3 goals here. I think this is going to be like a 4-0 kind of match, maybe even 5. And so I'm very willing to lay 2.5 with Germany here in a match that they have to have, in a match that they need some margin in. And I think this is blowout city from the start. So Germany minus 2.5, laying 30 cents. Don't go nuts here, but have fun. It's the World Cup. It starts in about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I like it. He's taking it to the pitch, and I'm taking it to the field with Thursday Night Football. The Bills taking on the Patriots. I like the Bills laying the points here, Jared. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I like it way more now that it's 3.5. I look at both of these teams, and they're both kind of similar. They have, except for the Bills' offense is way better at this point. But I look at the last 2 games that they've played. The Buffalo Bills outscored the New England Patriots 80-38, and they had really no answer for Buffalo's offense. Now, I know their offense necessarily isn't on point right now, but you still look at some of their numbers. They're ranked fifth. They're ranked 5th fewest in the league defensively, only giving up 18.1 per game. 18.1 points per game. And on the offensive side, they're the second best offense right now. 28.1 points per game that they're scoring. And I know that New England's defense is solid, right? Bill Belichick coach defense just in general is solid. But I feel like this is a spot where Buffalo knows, hey, they haven't been playing necessarily as good as they could be over the last couple of weeks. They barely squeaked by. Squawk? Is squawk a word? We'll make it a word.
Squawk is not a real word.
They barely, past tense of squeak, they barely squawked by the Detroit Lions. 24 seconds left in that game, and Josh Allen was able to get it done. But I think that he wants to show people, hey, we are a true Super Bowl contender. And what way to do it than against a division rival? And I know the Patriots last week, they were the only team to lose in the AFC East. They're going to be hungry in this one. But I just feel like Buffalo's offense is going to be too much. Josh Allen's going to want to get back on track, show the world what he's capable of. They're 8-3 on the season. They're tied right there with Miami Dolphins. They're going to want to be on the top of their division after this week, and I think that this is the spot to be able to do it, especially not being on a short week playing on Thursday Night Football. They've had a full week of rest, a full week of preparation for this New England Patriots team. And the cold, as they say in the movie Frozen, has never bothered them anyways because they're used to playing up in Buffalo, where there's 36 inches of snow and wind and sleet and rain anyways. So I like the Buffalo Bills laying the 3.5 points, and I like it even more, Jared, that it's the contrarian play because everyone else is on the New England Patriots. So lock it up, baby. Lock it in. That's it for us today, guys. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. That's Jared Smith. I'm Lauren Jabara. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure to tune in for Pickswise Playbook, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube and Twitter. We'll see you then. Let's get it. Let's bet it.